The night started with a smile I didn't trust. "My mom is inviting you to dinner today," my wife, Sophia, had texted that morning, just 4 days after our wedding. I remember staring at the message, feeling an odd chill. We hadn't even unpacked from the honeymoon, and already her family wanted me under their roof. I said yes, of course. I always say yes before I strike. They lived in an old villa on the north side of the city, the kind of place that smelled like money and quiet cruelty. Her mother, Luciana, greeted me with a smile too polished to be sincere. "Benvenuto, Marco," she said, her accent rich and deliberate. "You are finally part of the family." Part of the family? I almost laughed. Throughout dinner, I watched them. Sophia leaning close to her mother, whispering, smirking. The two of them shared a language I wasn't supposed to understand. I let them believe I didn't. When Luciana raised her glass and said something in Italian that made Sophia laugh, I caught every word. "He's cute," she said, "but dumb, just like the last one." My wife chuckled, without shame. My throat burned, but my face didn't move. I just smiled. Slow, deliberate, controlled. Before leaving, I took Luciana's hand, looked her straight in the eye, and said in flawless Italian, "È un piacere conoscere la famiglia che vive delle bugie." It's a pleasure to meet the family that lives on lies. Her smile faltered. Just a flicker. That was all I needed. They didn't know I understood Italian. They didn't know I already knew about the prenup, or rather, the absence of one. And they definitely didn't know that I, Marco De Luca, wasn't just some architect from Naples. I was the CEO of a real estate law firm. The one that quietly handled Luciana's hidden assets, her offshore transfers, her creative accounting. She had no idea who I really was when her daughter met me. But I knew exactly who she was. I met Sophia 2 years ago at a property auction. She was stunning, sharp, and far too curious about my work. Her mother had debts, massive ones, and I was handling the foreclosure of one of their luxury properties. I could have destroyed them then. But when Sophia smiled that first night, I saw an opportunity. So I played the role. The charming professional, the self-made man, the perfect husband candidate. They thought they were using me to crawl back into wealth. I was just waiting for them to marry me, legally, publicly, before I pulled the floor out from under them. The weeks after the dinner were simple. I stayed silent, patient. Sophia thought she'd won. She was already talking about moving into her mother's summer estate, the one hidden under Luciana's investment trust. What she didn't know was that the trust was managed by my firm. And 3 days before our wedding, I quietly changed the control clauses. Luciana still signed every document, not realizing she was signing away ownership. Each signature was another nail in her own financial coffin. 2 weeks later, I invited them both to my office. "Just a small favor," I said with a polite smile. "We need to finalize the property merger paperwork. Something about taxes." They arrived in designer dresses, perfume filling the air. Luciana signed every page without reading. Sophia laughed beside her, scrolling her phone. When the last signature was done, I leaned back, folded my hands, and spoke calmly. "You've just transferred all your estate holdings into my firm's ownership portfolio." Luciana froze. Sophia looked up, confused. "What?" "You heard me," I said, sliding a copy across the desk. "Every villa, every account tied to your mother's investments, all under my firm's control now, effective immediately." Luciana's face drained of color. "You can't—" "Oh, but I can," I cut in. "You signed the authorization yourself. I simply executed the clauses you missed. You should really learn to read the fine print, Signora." Sophia's voice trembled. "Why are you doing this?" I looked at her. The woman who laughed at me over dinner, who married me for money. Because you both thought I was a fool, I said softly, and fools make the best traps. They left that office broken, Luciana whispering threats she couldn't afford, Sophia silent for once in her life. Within a month, the headlines hit. Real estate matriarch loses entire portfolio in legal maneuver. Luciana's empire collapsed overnight. Sophia filed for divorce. I didn't contest. I even let her keep the car. I wanted her to drive away in something shiny, something that reminded her of the wealth she used to have. Tonight, I sit by the window of my penthouse. Their old penthouse, now legally mine. The city lights reflect on my glass of Barolo, smooth and dark. Sometimes I think back to that dinner, the laughter, the way they looked down on me. They thought I didn't understand their words. They were wrong. I understood everything, and I remembered every syllable.